Even in developed countries like the US, women still only make 78 cents for every dollar that a man makes and only make up 5.2% of the total number of CEOs. So what if I told you that women in one of the most oppressed countries in the world run an economic system that provides millions of people with food, hope and information? That's right, about 70% of household income in North Korea is earned by women working in informal markets. So how did this come to be? Until the 1990s, North Korea used to get a lot of money from the Soviet Union. However, when the USSR collapsed in 1991, North Korea suddenly lost access to all of that money. North Korea is a socialist country, so everyone is employed by the state. So when North Korea lost funding, they had to lay off a lot of people. And the vast majority of these people were women. The public distribution system that most people depended on for food broke down completely. So North Korean women found themselves without a job, without paychecks, or a dependable source of food. What's a girl to do? Since women were no longer employed by the state, they had to find other ways to provide for their families from home. So they started collecting food from the outside. Once they were able to maintain, they started selling the extra stuff off on underground markets, or Changmadang. Market activities were totally illegal in North Korea at this time, but since they gave people a source of food, information, and opportunities for self-advancement, the Changmadang quickly spread all over the country. To this day, over 70% of urban households engage with these markets on a regular basis, and over 90% of the merchants on these markets are female. The North Korean government hates these markets. The regime tries to keep the people as reliant as possible on the government, and free market systems where people produce and consume what they want with their money totally undermines the propaganda that North Koreans are fed every day. The fact that the markets which provide sustenance, information and hope to the most marginalised populations within North Korea are controlled almost entirely by women is a really big deal. Does this mean that North Korean underground markets are a feminist utopia? Not exactly. Even though women play a more important role in the North Korean underground economy, their social status has remained low. First, North Korean women who work in these small markets are constantly under threat of prosecution. 95% of North Korean women reported having to give bribes and sexual favours to police in order to avoid getting arrested for market activities. North Korean women also face an extreme version of the double burden, or the workload of people who work to earn money, but who are also responsible for significant amounts of unpaid domestic labour. Even as North Korean women take over many of their husbands' former economic responsibilities, they're also expected to maintain their former roles as caretakers, as housewives without help from their husbands. In addition, women who participate in market activities are more likely to be a target of domestic violence. However, more and more women have shown that they are willing to fight to protect their newfound economic independence. In 2008, there was a huge government crackdown on legal markets, which forbid women under 50 from engaging in legal trade. This pissed people off a lot. Thousands of women marched to the city manager's office to protest. This is in North Korea, where there is no freedom of speech or assembly, and where these kinds of spontaneous rallies almost never happen. The most amazing part is that local authorities actually withdrew the age restriction after the protests. The women were successful in achieving their goal. The Labour Party later reinstated that law, but the fact that the local government of one of the most oppressive countries in the world even considered bowing to the demands of young, female merchants just goes to show how important they had become in such a short period of time. These women have started a revolution, and despite the best efforts of Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un, it will not soon be silenced.